This is Julie with Pettyjohn Quilting. Today I want to share a video with you where I'm mostly doing free motion quilting and ruler work, but I'm also mixing in some ProStitcher Premium, so I would like to share that with you on this beautiful wool applique quilt that has snowmen. Join me please, and if you like this, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. Let me first explain why a couple of the blocks I have marked with a water-soluble marker, but most of the blocks I have not. The reason is that when I feel like I cannot make a complete line on this block that you're looking at here with the cup and the snowman that's within the cup, on that, while I'm stitching it, I probably, when I get to the cup, will go up and over and around, and then later do the bottom part. Well, it's easy to make a mistake there. So blocks like that, I prefer to do some pre-marking. That helps me out. But I don't want to mark just for the sake of marking, because it does take a bit of time to spray everything down real well with water and a tablespoon of baking soda to help get those marks out. Obviously, this quilt is all about the wool applique. So let me address to you how I handle wool applique. I feel that applique needs to be stitched on. Otherwise, it will sag and bag and just not look pretty after a while. I don't like to put very much stitching on it, just as little as possible. A lot of people use mono poly thread. It's invisible, and that's what makes it great. I just personally don't like working with it. So if I can avoid it, I will. In place of it, my next solution is Superior Threads Micro Quilter Thread. It is 100 weight. It is not invisible, but it is near invisible. It doesn't put much thread at all onto the applique, but it will get the job done. So I love it for that. Now, the next thing that I really notice about this quilt is that there are a lot of squares, little square blocks, and there are a couple of different sizes. So there's one I would call a medium block, and then there are the little ones that are about half the size or less of that medium block. So I decide I want to pick out some designs that I think will complement one another from ProStitcher and use those. And in the little blocks, I decide to alternate vertical and horizontal lines. At this point, I take some measurements in the quilt. I want to know the sizes of the borders and sizes of blocks, especially where I'm going to need some ProStitcher designs. Then I take my flash drive and I go to my computer and I go to simulation of ProStitcher. Now I'm going to tell you just kind of some of the things that I follow as a general rule. There are always exceptions, right? But I look for designs that I think will complement each other. I try to bring them, as many as I can, into ProStitcher, and I look so I can see them all together at once and see if I think they're going to go together well. Then the way I save them, if I'm going to have a lot of designs like I do in this case, I'll make a folder, which I just did, and I titled this one Snowman, so I can have them all saved together and find them easily enough. Then I try to be consistent in the way that I name the designs. Like here, I started to name that Dawn's Border because that's the name of the design. And then I think, wait a minute, maybe I should just go back to one of the rules that I quite often use is to name it Border, something more simplistic for this one job. And I'm going to then put OG on this particular one because I'm not resizing it. This is just something I kind of do. If I'm in a pinch for time, and I'll go in and just grab all the designs, and I just bring the design as it has been made by the designer and put them all on the flash drive, and I don't resize any of them yet. That means that if I'm saving them, I'm going to put OG, because to me that means original. That's the original one. So I will put, like on that one, border OG 1, because it wasn't the full border, it was just one of the designs. The work still needs to be done on it. Then on my blocks, in this case I have 4 or 5 blocks I'm saving, so instead of saving them by the name of each block, which will put them all over my list in alphabetical order, I'm going to save them block and then the name of the block, like block Annie, block windmill, block Dawn, things like that. And if I resize them, I'm not sure if I did on this one, but what I really like to do is to resize, at least get it into a real close to needed size, a very workable size, get them all similar, and resize them all, so that that's just one more thing I don't have to deal with when I get to the quilt. It can all move faster, and I can have a lot more fun at the quilt, so that I don't have to be redesigning and refiguring everything. So I'm going to save all my blocks. The border, I'll probably go back later. I did save that one, but I'll go back later because I've already taken the measurement and I know what size my border is going to be, so I can do my repeats and get the border the size that I need it, and baseline that and just save the whole border together. Also on this, I will tell you that I ended up saving a whole lot of things that I really didn't end up using, because I had thought that I might do some little motifs kind of here and there and do my free motion around them. And then as I was stitching out the quilt, I thought, ooh, that's just going to look busy, and I don't think that's going to have the look that I thought it would, so I ended up not saving them. But I would rather have more than I need on that flash drive than not have things I need and have to stop what I'm doing and go back to doing something that I feel like I should have taken care of previously. So that's kind of how I work my designs and save them onto the flash drive, and then I get to go have fun. To base my quilt, I always put my channel locks on and put a straight line just in the batting and the backing, and then I check my settings, and then I put a 1/4 inch basting seam across the top. To mark my area for my border design, I will select area, and then I'm going to line up my needle and my laser pointer where I want my first point, and then I use my diamond on my right handlebar. The diamond shape is a shortcut key to mark points, and I want to mark many points along the top of the border, down the right side, then I'll come back marking the bottom part. And I just want to mention for anyone who's new here, be sure and don't mark the entire bit of fabric. Leave some room at the top for the person to put their binding on. So you're just kind of eyeballing where you want that border to hit. And along the bottom, don't go in the ditch, in the stitch in the ditch, because you don't want your stitch to go down into that ditch. You want it to set between the ditch and the top. So mark wherever you want that border to hit. I select the home key at the bottom of my screen to bring everything front and center, and I can see the area that I have just created. Now I need my design, the design that I did not resize on the computer, so that means I have to do it now. Wouldn't it have been easier if I would have just taken care of it before when I saved? But I didn't. So I go and I find Dawn's border, the 1OG, bring it in, and then I'm going to go ahead and resize it. So I need to go to Modify and Resize, and then I'll lock the aspect ratio so that it will, stay the same on both directions, and make that just a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to save that now, that new one, because I'll need to use it again when I get to the bottom border. So I'm going to save that, and I'll need to save it as the one border resized. So that's what I'm doing here. Save the selected. I'm going to just back up so that it says border, and then I type in resized and 1. Now I'm going to go to Modify and align that on the left and vertically, either top or center. Doesn't really matter, because I think I'm going to be skewing this because the border is not, or my area is not perfectly straight. So it will look best if I go to repeat, and I repeat until I've just almost filled that area up, and then I'm going to push stretch just to stretch it on out to the end of the area. And I check there to see, do I want another one and stretch it littler, or do I just want to leave it at that and stretch it a little bigger? And I think that probably looks best. And then I can go to Modify and Skew and select Border Skew. And then I'm ready to stitch it out. In this video, I am using a ruler to help me stitch in the ditch. There is a lot of stitching in the ditch on a custom quilt. I love the look of stitching in the ditch, so I feel like it is worth it to take the time to go around and stitch down everything. There's so many things in this quilt that these videos are just a little splash of a lot of different things that I hope you might enjoy watching. For the sashing, I have opted to do some free motion, and I'm using a design that I call fencing, or sometimes fence posts. It's just because it reminds me of the tops of the boards on a privacy fence. It's almost an upside down U, could almost be an N, the letter N. It's really, really simple and easy. Any beginner can do it, but sometimes it just does what's needed to be done in that area. It's a really good sashing in some cases. I love it. To stitch the blocks, I use the same method that I just did for the border. I'm going to place my needle and my laser pointer, press the button. Each time I stop, I'm pressing my button and making a mark. And then the area tool will connect those marks and make a square area. And then I can select the design I want for that block, and I can position it within that area and then stitch it out. That's the magic of ProStitcher. After this block, I have just a little bit of free motion and some ruler work putting together the crosshatch, and I'll just let a little music play, and I hope you enjoy that little bit and some finished pictures of the quilt.